and welcome to Marshall Matters with me, Winston Marshall, at the Spectator offices in London. In this series, I've been exploring freedom of expression in the creative industries. And today I'm joined by American lo-fi legend Ariel Pink. Ariel has collaborated with the likes of Miley Cyrus, Azealia Banks, and has quite a remarkable music career, which last year took rather a surprising turn as a consequence of Ariel attending the January 6th Trump rally. He's been very clear to say not the Capitol Hill storming that happened afterwards.
Whose house?
Ariel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Winston. Happy to be here.
You lost really everything in attending the Trump rally. You had over 130 articles besmirching you. You were dropped from your record label by text message, no less. You had sexual abuse accusations. You just had it all coming at you. Can you take us to that day and tell us your sort of side of the story of that experience?
Yeah, happy to. It was a little field trip, that was that I had sort of planned last minute with my friend Jon, and we arrived in D.C. like countless others to attend the Trump rally, and that was at the White House lawn to go see Trump sort of say his final words, I guess.
We don't have a fair media anymore.
There wasn't an expectation, at least not on my part, that anything was going to be changed in the electoral count or anything like that. I mean, that Mike Pence had not declared the count yet, so that was supposed to happen on that day. And I suppose the ongoing narrative and the argument on the left side is that people that were in attendance in Washington D.C. that day that were there for Trump were there to impede that process. As far as I knew, that wasn't the case. I mean, I didn't think that there was the Stop the Steal rally. There were all these different groups of people that were protesting, but people protest. It was a totally authorized event. There were licenses and clearances for all these people. So I thought that when I attended the White House lawn, there was a lot of people in the streets, obviously, but there was like a security kiosk, and you had to go through a line. It was like going to a concert. It was official. There was security, so there was nothing untoward about it. It felt very organic and very, very. It was really kind of uplifting. It was predominantly white, I would say. There's a big contingent of white people, but I think that's probably going to be the case for most political rallies that you go to.
That's a big trip to do. Why were you there? Because you were interested and curious to see what was going on, or were you going as a supporter of Trump?
I've always been very, very loud about my thoughts on Trump. I mean, I was very supportive of him. I thought he was, I thought he did a very good job for a person that wasn't supposed to be there. So when I say wasn't supposed to be there, I mean that they didn't want him to be there, and there was all the politics involved were designed to sort of reduce the chances of somebody like him being able to be there. But he was supposed to be there in the sense that he won the election, and he's emblematic of what you can do in this country if you put your mind to it. And it's really not walled off for anybody. People can become president. They can have that dream when they're younger, and they can do that. It's not a royal thing. It's not an intellectual thing. It's not. There's no there's no proper type of person that should be that. And I think that what resonated with people with Trump is that, well, first of all, there just wasn't, the options were what we had for the past 30 years. And we knew that wasn't working out. We'd experienced 9/11. We experienced the housing market crash of 2008. We'd seen Occupy Wall Street. We'd seen all the things that basically that side had done. And they wanted to continue their reign, essentially.
By they, you mean the Democratic establishment or the establishment generally speaking?
The Democratic political establishment, that includes the Republican side to the establishment. Bush. I'm talking about all the way as far back. I wouldn't even consider George Bush Sr. as being part of that regime. I would say his son was. I would say it started all with the Clintons. The Clintons really, when Bill Clinton went into office, I think he did a reshuffling of the deck, and that's where we've been. I think a lot of the same people are there.
You say you were very vocal and loud in supporting Trump before, so you must have then experienced some sort of pushback in the music industry or in the creative industries.
The pushback wasn't there, and that's what was so alarming about it, because I think that the pushback might have been behind closed doors. There might have been, people talking like, "Oh, what is he doing? He's crazy," or whatever. I don't know. I wasn't there, but at least to my face, and as it wouldn't have been seen as prudent to cancel them on those grounds, just flat out. I think it was enough of an anachronism to have a musician coming out as pro-Trump that there sort of wasn't any kind of standard way of addressing that in a way publicly.
It's kind of peculiar because actually there's a lot of musicians who are pro-Trump.
That's an interesting aspect of it because everybody knows that Nashville has had to they've had to be bedfellows with Hollywood entertainment industry, and it's an uncomfortable marriage, I think that the pop music world, which is I would say, Tinseltown in Hollywood, it operates. It sort of took over and really kind of Music City, USA, in Nashville was really the epicenter of country and all that kind of stuff for a good part of the last century. And then it had to sort of join forces at some point, maybe around Shania Twain or something. I don't know where it was, but probably before that. It was probably around Dolly Parton or something like that. But that actually Dolly Parton's a good person to, because she was an unconventional, somebody that probably wouldn't have made it in Nashville had it just been Nashville.
Can you take us through the experience of what you lost having been at that Trump rally, and what were the repercussions on your career as a consequence of your attendance? And then I'd like to ask about why, if you didn't attend the Capitol Hill storming, what about your attendance of the rally is so offensive, or has been so offensive? Is it simply support for Trump? Or is it because they can't detach attending the rally from Capitol Hill?
Well, I lost my record deal right away. Just right away. Without any questions asked. That's not a big deal. That would have been fine. But they also, not only did they drop me, but it was tantamount to basically saying that I was there. It basically these articles came out just claiming that I was somewhere that I wasn't, and claiming that it didn't matter that I wasn't there. They didn't really care. The media, the liberal media was so in a they're having their moment. They really wanted this to be the linchpin to get Trump and to basically make him wholly just just illegitimate from now on. The goal was to basically have him not run in 2024. So they needed a moment like this. It's just kind of like a serendipitous, wonderful stroke of good luck that this happened, because this was the thing that they could die on. They could use this. That's why we're seeing the hearings now.
They've lost a hard-fought election.
The media was prepared for that too. They were tipped off. All the cameras and all the press were at the Capitol, prepared for what was going to happen there. The rally, which had hundreds of thousands of people, was not being covered, really. I mean, there was no cameras where I was. I thought, I taken note about that. I was just like, well, that's amazing. And we're just walking around here. There's no CNN buses, no journalists, nothing like that. No coverage of it. I mean, there's some that was up on the bleachers covering Trump's speech a little bit, but I thought that those weren't the networks or anything like that. Anyway, but they were there. They were just a mile away and getting ready for the main event, as far as they were concerned, because that was what they thought was the main event, was whatever was going to happen at Congress.
And you've explicitly condemned the Capitol Hill storming yourself, or I've read that you have.
Absolutely. But I also think that there's the idea that, for instance, that Trump, the big lie, this is what you hear about, the big lie that there was a election fraud. I mean, this is what some people believe. Now, it could be wrong, but that's in itself not a lie. It's not, he's not lying. I believe that Trump believed that there was some sort of malfeasance in the election. And I think that the people, whether he thought that or not, I think the people feel that because they were there. I mean, we experienced a very strange, we were watching the elections as they were taking place in real time. We thought that was very strange, that there was that they stopped for the night. There's so many areas where it really we were just kind of like, we knew that, like, basically, we knew that something was really, really screwy, and there was being, and this is something that's been happening for 4 or 5 years, ever since he started the campaign trail in 2015, and with the Russia hoax, which has now been proven to be a hoax. I mean, it's pretty much, it's confirmed to be a hoax.
Well, further than that, it's one that's linked to Hillary Clinton to have.
Oh yeah. I wonder. So you have to. So the point is that, like, we can understand why other people would say, call foul on all these things, because they have something to lose, and because they're guilty of those things, and they're guilty of misleading the people. And they're guilty. The media is very, very, has a lot of blood on their hands for being so in lockstep with the Democratic Party specifically. There's nothing wrong with me being pro-Trump. Never was, and never should be anything wrong with people being pro-Trump. There's nothing inherently. You might not like the guy. I don't necessarily like the guy. I don't need to have a guy that I like in office. My life does not revolve around that, but that's my choice, and and being able to say that, to being able to speak my mind has been my career. I mean, that's expressing myself is my job. That's what got me where I am. If I don't say what's on my mind, then if I can't say, if I have to censor myself, beyond a certain degree, beyond a very, very small degree, I guess. I mean, I'd rather not even. I just won't say anything. I won't sing songs. I won't. My career is sort of just, what I've been able to do is just be myself for long enough, and eventually things actually came around and started to, the doors started to open for me. through tenacity. You know, it was a war of attrition between me and the rest of the world. But eventually, like, you know, I did what I did, and then doors started to open because because of my commitment to it, and it was not an easy ascent. So the fact that it came down so quickly on such spurious grounds is, to me, it's offensive.
It's certainly a phenomenon to see so many artists experiencing either being censored or self-censorship to protect their careers. It's such if any type of person with any type of personality type or traits who are going to hurt the most from holding themselves back and not expressing themselves, it's the artist. And so it's particularly been curious over the last couple of years seeing that it's other artists silencing artists.
Artists don't censor other artists. I mean, it's the medium. You know, we created the internet to get around issues like censorship that would come from top down from the government. I mean, we made the internet to the idea of the internet. The whole thing is against censorship. It was a way to get around those obstacles, you know, of having to sort of like, you know, deal with the industry that was corrupt already and all this kind of stuff. And the internet was this place where you could do that. And of course, you know, that's a pipe dream, and we knew that it was going to be used, you know, in a bad way. And you know, the more that, you know, it sort of, the longer it was around. But in principle, it really sort of like, you know, embodies the American dream or the, you know, the West Coast dream, even, you know, as liberal as they come. You know, I mean, this place was not policed. It was the internet was a way to, if they had a plan to censor us, if they thought the media was always on their side, we had this other plan, and that's still the idea, more or less. But now it's just sort of like, you know, it's being. They're not even providing any kind of, they're not even having the conversation. They're just basically speaking right past you. They're not listening. And you can, if they take you down, they just take you down. They don't need to explain it. It's a fascistic, it's a weapon now. It's a completely evil weapon.
Ariel, the question that I can't answer in my head, which I wonder if you have insight to, which is, if 74 million people voted for Trump, i.e. more than anyone who's ever run for president, with the exception of Biden, which now that was 47%, or roughly 47% of your country, that many people support Trump, and you support Trump, how is it, with basically half the country supporting Trump, that you have lost everything? It doesn't make sense to me. Why have you faced that and not, let's say, John Mouse, who was with you then? As far as I can see, that guy's continuing with his music. Why has it come for Ariel Pink, unlike anyone else?
Well, for one thing, I was a mark, I think, for a while prior. I mean, like, I think that, like, you know, I made it known what my feelings were about Trump for years, and so that sort of got everybody ready to sort of like put their arrows in their quiver and that kind of thing. I mean, I think that they were chomping at the bit. They probably had already, you know, behind closed doors, obviously. Like, I mean, I think that like the people like that run these tech platforms and all these kinds of stuff, and people that, like, you know, that deal in the you know, journalists or whatever. I think that there are these conversations that are had, and it seemed like, you know, there's a sort of a consensus that, like, you know, Ariel's a Trump supporter. You know, he's an Ariel. The discussion basically like had already happened, and so it didn't surprise them. They felt like, you know, oh, gotcha, he's there. He's there. And I don't think that they had that with Jon. I don't think that I think Jon was a surprise for them, and I think that they were just they probably just thought, I don't know what they think, but really it was just for the headlines, mind you. You know, I mean, like they wanted to scandalize it. They wanted to make it a scandal. They wanted to make Trump completely illegitimate. They wanted to make him a terrorist. They wanted to make Trump supporters terrorists. Now, how do they do that? They did that by completely ignoring the facts. You have to understand that there's like this elitist class, and that includes journalism, and that includes it's like a strata of it happens in the cities and in the West Coast and in the East Coast, and then in the cities. But it's really this gatekeeping class that is now aligned with the left. They don't have contact, and they do not listen to. I mean, they hate Fox News. They think of it. You can read it in Time magazine. You can read what they think in Newsweek. These articles explain it all. I mean, they throughout Trump's presidency, they were really pumping up the rhetoric to such a. And they were just saying, you can't be friends with your friends if they're Republican. It's time to basically cut the cord. We cannot support anybody. We cannot support fascism. We cannot support racism. As if they ever supported that before. As if anybody that they were friends with was a racist. As if being a conservative or a Trump supporter ever meant that you were racist prior to this. Never did. You wouldn't be friends with them if they were. But this was like a call. These were direct. These were Maoist or almost Khmer Rouge style types of revolt. They unleashed Antifa on us. This is a Soros style psyop. I hate to say it.
You could definitely say there's a point. I was in the States for the Trump election in New York, and before that election, Trump was hosting Saturday Night Live. You could have conversations about him, and after the election, it was like he was a disease that needed to be, cut out of the American body.
What was more outrageous was that the media probably put him in the office. I mean, they probably, it was kind of like the Streisand effect or whatever, where they hated him so much and they were so in unison. I mean, and before he became president, Fox was just as outraged by him. You couldn't say that anybody was really on his side in the media outwardly. He didn't have, even the conservatives, they were, so, but what they were doing was not telling the news. They were not giving us the facts. I mean, to a certain degree, they couldn't avoid the fact that, he was still in the running with Hillary all the way to the very end. But keep in mind, the entire time they're saying that, they're saying there's no way he can win. And the polls show that. And that's why it was, even Julian Assange was saying he would, if Trump won, he would, he would personally, he would turn himself in. He was saying that, thinking that, there's no way that Trump would win. I mean, so everybody was convinced that Trump wouldn't win. So that when he won, it was kind of a complete travesty. And that's because the news and journalism in general was shown to be a complete farce. It was bought and paid for by the Democratic Party. It was shown, the whole thing was basically unmasked in the campaign, in the run up to his election. And that's what was shocking. It was that that the news could tell you that there's no way that he could win, that every single poll said that he wouldn't win, that there was no way that he could win, and that Hillary, this was a done deal. And so it was and I was just, somebody who didn't have skin in that game, and was just watching it. I was just they're gonna give him the presidency just by talking about him this much. I mean, if they wanted to get rid of him, they could have just given him the Bernie Sanders treatment and not covered him.
So now in Biden's America, what's the atmosphere? Has it calmed now or is there a fear that Trump will return? I guess we're in the sort of middle of the January 6th hearings right now. What's it like for you out in California?
Well, for me, I mean, it's been an ongoing thing, and it's obviously been it's been sort of it feels like it's yeah, I've got like a pain in my chest, you know, every day because of the trauma, I guess. I can't attend concerts. I can't go to bars. I can't go to certain places. Okay, so anywhere that I'm recognized, really. I can't go to restaurants because the employees don't feel safe. That's what the managers will tell me.
And on what anyone elaborated on
There's
that?
no elaboration on it. It's fascistic. I mean, it's a totalitarian thing. Everybody's taking. This is the thing. Nobody wants to get there. Nobody wants to be the one to ruffle. You know, everybody's basically trying to avoid a scandal. They don't want to have to lose followers or lose customers. And for them, it's a business deal. It's that's their excuse, is that it's kind of like the same mentality that's having all these companies go woke and the sustainability ESG stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's all this stuff that all these sustainability and diversity, equity, inclusion, all of that stuff is just been swallowed hook, line, and sinker here, and especially in LA.
This is a shocking portrait of modern America that you're painting for supporting a presidential candidate who got 47% of the vote. You are not only lost a hell of a lot of work, but you're blacklisted from even going to bars and venues in your hometown.
My friends will invite me. A few people. I still have people that still talk to me, of course. And in secret they'll say, of course I don't care about that stuff. And they have a show, and they invite me to perform even, or make an appearance on stage, do something, and I'm like, well, maybe you want to check with the venue first, and they're like, okay, I mean, we can maybe we'll bring you in with the crew or something like that. And I'm like, well, you might want to check with the venue. I don't want to be put in that position personally. I don't want you to be put in that position. It's just kind of humiliating for me because I'm so used to this. And then they text their the owners and whatever, and then the owners get back and they're just like, yeah, we're gonna have to say no. And
any venue specifically done that?
Zebulon in LA, Salazar restaurant. Basically anybody that I ask, and I don't want people basically sneaking me in behind the scenes. I don't want to do that. That's not but I don't want to have to tiptoe. I want to go somewhere where where I have the right to stay there, and I want to be just a regular person there. I don't want to go there and discover that somebody complained and I had to leave. That's not what I'm about, and I don't want to it's not fun for me. I want to be supported.
What about your music? Are you able to carry on?
No, I can't get concerts. I cannot. I am so canceled, and nobody cares. But that's fine. It's woe is me.
I think a lot of people care. I think a lot of people are shocked by it.
Well, but you know what? What is it? Nobody cares that much. Nobody cares enough to put their own ass on the line for it. That's what it comes down to. And I think that I think that's the weird, the conundrum is that, I wouldn't have gone if I didn't feel some sense of urgency about it. I wouldn't have voted for Trump if I didn't think that it was completely crucial. And it was just because I saw what was already happening to my friends in the Democratic Party and to the people that I know, and I saw what was going on. I saw their mentality. They were just so, and I said, you know what? That even if these people wanted to not vote for Biden, they couldn't say that. They couldn't say it out loud. There's nobody in Hollywood that's coming out and saying they're pro Trump. They can't do that. That's weird. I should be able to vote for Trump even for my own reasons, just because hey, I'm just because I don't care. Just because it was a joke. Even, it doesn't. My reasons, it doesn't matter. But people have that right. They shouldn't be punished for it. If I lose the election, that's the consequence. You don't get to punish me if I'm the loser. You don't get to if Alex Jones is wrong about Sandy Hook. That doesn't mean you sue him for harming for other people. Making more of it than is necessary and making other people's lives miserable. I don't care what I mean. People have individual autonomy. They're responsible for their own actions. They should be held. The world is not just a bunch of cult leaders.
One of the other attendees with you was Alex Lee Moyer, the director of Alex's War, the film about Alex Jones.
He said, me and Hillary are demons. Ain't that something?
Alex Jones is probably the most censored person in America. He's banned from Twitter, YouTube, every social media platform. And this film and the director, Alex, has managed to nonetheless get this film about him up. I think at the moment, as time of us speaking, it's number 2 in the iTunes pre-sale charts, something like that, very high. And so where you were censored and had everything stripped up, this other person who was, with you on that day is facing into the cancellation and piercing through it. What do you account that difference? Is it a mentality difference? Is it because film is different from music?
She's a director, and I think that she's her opinions are sort of, I don't think it really has. I mean, she's getting a lot of flack for it. I mean, just for doing it. This because of the subject matter, and then people think that it's one and the same thing. But I think that there is, among other circles, and I'm speaking in the corporate world, they know that she's not the necessarily the subject of her film, and she can sort of dodge that. Well, I mean, she's not. I think that she's been canceled. She's had a lot of flack for it, and I think that she's not necessarily a conservative. She was not necessarily a Trump supporter. She was just making a movie about Alex Jones, and she doesn't necessarily condone what Alex Jones says or stands for. Neither do I. I mean, not everything he says. I don't support everything he says either. But that's the point. Is that that distinction seems to be lost among the greater, the younger population at least, or the people that are woke and doling out consequences for people's actions and doing all this social justice stuff. I think with I can't speak for Mouse, but I think that a lot of it is just fear. I mean, I haven't heard what he hasn't really been public since the whole. I haven't really talked to him since then. I mean, even Trump supporters canceled me, in a sense.
Why did Trump supporters cancel you?
Well, I'm just saying, I haven't spoken to John Mount. We've just been we went separate. I think.
Oh, right. I see.
I mean, I'm just saying it's more than the opinions, and canceling is more than whatever that people say it is. I mean, it's an about face, and ultimately that about face was only and solely by the media. I mean, the media basically made me. The message went out. I was not allowed anymore, and everybody that liked me had to basically make a show of disavowing me in order to gain any kind of. In order to still stay in their friend group, and in order to stay, in order to not invite the wrath that I incurred, because that was just the Trump stink that I got on me, and Trump, and nobody wants the Trump stink because you'll be taken down by association. This was a hit job. They're going after the person. And now that he was out, I was just the first casualty of it, or one of them. I mean, but Alex was really the first casualty of this. even before Trump.
You are still making music, and I hope that you find an outlet for that. And I know your many fans, and I do believe you still have many fans, will eagerly anticipate new music. What can we look forward to from you?
A lot more of me. Yeah, unfortunately, they're gonna have to kill me if they didn't kill me. That's unfortunately so. And there's not much left for me to do. I mean, but complain about the stuff online. So if you guys, if a little message to the world out there, I could be making music and shutting up about all this stuff if you uncancel me. But I don't think that's gonna happen. But I like coming on the show.
Well, Ariel, thank you so much for your time and for talking to me, and I look forward to hearing your music when you release it.
Okay, thank you. That was fun. Bye, Winston.